Hi, I'm Glyn from Anglers Den, Sussex in Pevensey Bay, and today we're going to be shooting another casting video. We're going to do it in 3 sections today to make it more easy for people to follow through. The first section we're going to show people the equipment that we're going to be using, why we use that equipment, how we use that equipment. And the second part of the video will be the setting up of a cast, where you put your feet, where the rod goes, etc, etc. There's quite a few stages in a cast before you get to the end product, if you like. And the third part of the video will be putting all the bits that we've learned, all the bits that we learned about, into practice. So that'll be actually the practicalities of casting. We're going to show, I've got a young apprentice with me today, Ollie, and we're going to be showing him down the beach, actually demonstrating the cast. So hopefully we'll put all the bits together and then we'll have a demonstration and hopefully it'll all come together. Right, the equipment that we're going to be using today, we've got a Continental rod, it's a black rock Fusa rod, very nice rod, very slim. And as you can see, it's got a very slim tip. It's one of these integrated tip rods. Don't be deceived, it shows fantastic bite indication, but the rod is very powerful. So although it's got, as you can see, it's got this fantastic thin tip for showing bite indication, but the rod is very powerful even though it's very slim. Moving down the rod, we come to the reel. This is a particularly nice reel. It's a Yuki AMG Surf 10,000 reel, loaded with braided line and a tapered shock leader. And you may notice just above the reel there's a strange contraption. It's a breakaway cannon. We use those for protecting our fingers when we're casting, because you can get quite a nasty snap on your finger when you're casting with long rods and heavy leads off the beach. We have got a video that explains in depth about the breakaway cannon, so I won't go into too much detail about it, but needless to say, it's a very necessary bit of kit when you're casting off the beach. Some people prefer to use a finger stall, which is the same sort of protection for your finger. It just fits over your finger like so, and again, release as you would normally. But a lot of us prefer these breakaway cannons. They're a mechanical finger, if you like, and we like those. You'll see on this reel, on this Yuki, there is a white line. It's not a monofilament line, it's a braided line. We actually use fire line off the beach, as most of us do. It's a very, very fine, very strong line. Excellent for what we want for fishing from the beaches around here. Very fine diameter, almost indestructible, casts a long way, obviously, because it's fine diameter, catches the tide less, catches the wind less, ticks all the boxes for exactly the sort of line that you want to be using on a fixed ball on a beach. We attach to that braided line a tapered shock leader. As you can see here, we've got a tapered shock leader attached to the braided line. Now if I just bring in Ollie, introduce you to Ollie, because Ollie's going to be doing the casting.
Yes.
You're going to be doing a bit of casting demonstration a bit later on, Ollie. Now I know when I'm talking about the shock leader, you've got a very good question you want to ask me.
Yes, I do. How do you know what pound test shock leader to use?
That's a really good question, Ollie, actually. There's a little equation that we use, 10 pound of shock leader per ounce of lead that we cast. So we're going to be using a 5 ounce lead today. So the minimum shock leader breaking strain that we need to be using at the end where the lead is 50 pounds. Now I notice that you've got a Yuki shock leader on here. This is a really good quality shock leader. And this one has very fine diameter where it attaches to the braided line. But at the other end, it's actually a 70 pound breaking strain leader. Even though it's very fine diameter, it's made in Japan, it's a Japanese quality line. It's a Yuki shock leader, tapered shock leader, and it's 70 pound breaking strain. And that's really useful. That enables us then to change our leads using the same shock leader. So if we go from a 5 ounce lead, sometimes the conditions change and we want to go to a 6 ounce lead, or maybe even a 7 ounce lead if it gets particularly rough. We can do that using the same shock leader. It's still within the safety parameters for that shock leader. Now, you'll notice I used the words as well, is a tapered shock leader. Now, we have to use a tapered shock leader when we are using braided line. And the reason being, when you release, you have an explosion of line coming off your spool, off of a fixed spool. Now, with a tapered shock leader, it's a pre-cut length, 15 metres in length, tapering down to 15 pound, 20 pounds in at the thin end, tapering up to 50, 60 or even 70 pounds, as we said before. And with a tapered shock leader, because it's 15 metres in length, the knot, which is very, very small, is way further back and isn't involved in the initial explosion of the cast. And therefore, it doesn't wrap around the rings. We found this many years ago, that unfortunately using standard shock leader with a braided line, you've got ring wrap using a standard shock leader. So we very quickly learned that we had to use a tapered shock leader, which is fantastic because there's some brilliant ones on the market now. So tapered shock leader negates that almost completely. So fantastic bit of kit. So you must use it. It really is a must use a tapered shock leader if you're using a fine braided line. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through the basics of setting up of a beach cast. But before I do that, I just want to explain one thing, because this is something that a lot of people don't know and they get wrong, and that is that casting is actually 70% timing and technique and about 30% power. Most people, if they haven't had a lesson, if they haven't been taught, probably do it the other way around. They're probably using 70% brute force, maybe 30% timing. So that's good news, because what that means is if you're not the biggest person in the world, you've got good timing, you can still cast on a long way. Now the first thing we're going to do when we set up our cast is the feet. So I'm just going to move over here, just so you can see my feet. As if I was casting in this direction, here. So the first thing I do is I have my feet shoulder width apart, along the beach. Okay, so I'm not facing the way I'm casting, I'm facing, my chest is facing along the beach. With my legs shoulder width apart. But also you'll notice they're not in line. Because if they're in line and I cast, that's going to make me off balance and twist. So what we do is we take, I'm right-handed, so we take my left leg back, my right leg stays forward. So we have a shoulder width apart here. But if you'll see when I turn, you'll also notice that there should be a shoulder width when we finish the cast. So, the first thing is your feet. Get your feet right. Get your feet set, nice and comfortable. Your right leg facing along the beach, your left leg 45 degrees facing out to sea. A nice, comfortable position to start from. The next bit is your arms. Your arms, it's really important now. The easiest way to remember about how your arms should be is if you were throwing a javelin. So, if I was throwing a javelin, this is how my arm would be. Okay, it's got a slight bend in it, I'm right-handed. If I just show you the motion of throwing a javelin, here, this is the motion. Now obviously we don't throw the rod into the sea, that would be pointless. So what we do is, as you can see, we put our left hand on the end of the rod butt, and as we go through the motion, we pull through, throw in the javelin, the rod comes through and turns in this position here. So we pull through like a javelin, but as we turn our body, then so the rod turns and goes at 45 degrees, which is the correct stance of the cast. Right, I'm just going to call Ollie in. If you'd like to come into the shop now, Ollie, and we're going to get you set up with the basics of just using the rod butt, just so you can go through practicing the motions of the cast. We don't need to have the whole rod together. That's the beauty of practicing casting. Practice and practice and practice. You can just use a rod butt, as we're going to demonstrate. Obviously, we'll be casting with the rods a little bit later on. I don't want to confuse people, but Ollie's actually left-handed. Okay, so he's going to be doing it from a left-handed point of view. Not a problem. It's exactly the same cast as if you're doing it right-handed. I'll demonstrate right-handed, Ollie's going to demonstrate left-handed, so you get the best of both of those. So Ollie, if I get you set up with a rod butt, as if you're going to be casting in that direction, so there we are, I'm going to go down the wrong way. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get your feet right first, Ollie. So, if you do like we said before, that's it, you know the score, so yeah, so a shoulder width apart, maybe take your right leg back a little bit more, that's it, lovely. So then get your arms up in this position, remember what we said, like a javelin. So here we are, we've got, just get your left down a little bit there, mate, that's lovely, there we are. So this arm, a nice little bend here, this arm, relatively straight, will be pointing along the beach, casting in that direction. So as you can see, Ollie's got the classic javelin stance, ready to go through the cast. He's got his feet in the correct position, shoulder width apart, so that when he turns through the cast, he's got a nice solid platform from which to end the cast. So if you just go through the cast for me, Ollie, if you can look up before you cast.
Why is that so important to look up? Why do you need to do that?
Well, that's another very good question, actually. It is important, just before we do that, if you just hold that down a little bit, yeah, it's really important to look up when we cast. And when we say look up, we don't mean look up with our eyes. We actually look up with our chin. And the reason we do that is because what it does is it lifts our shoulder, lifts our arms. And so what happens is, if we look flat when we cast, so if you were to cast from here, Ollie, and you were to look flat, your arm will not cross your eye line. It will always follow below the level of your chin. So the lower you look, the lower your arms drop. So the reason we look up when we cast, and when we say look up, as I say, it's 45 degrees, it really is quite a look up. It lifts your arm, it lifts your shoulders. So that's a really good question, and it's one that a lot of people don't know, and it's also one of the reasons why people don't cast as far at night, because at night there's no horizon, therefore they tend to look straight and their arms drop flat, so they don't cast as far at night because their arms are generally coming through at a lower angle. And a lower angle, if you come through with your arms, means you've got a lower arc, so a lower arc from which to get the power stroke into the cast. So it's a really good question, and it's one that a lot of people forget to do. They look flat, they look up. So before you cast, look up with your chin, not with your arms. So let's get you set then, Ollie. So look up, and what you're looking at, see it up with your chin, good. So your arms automatically come up high. Now, if you can just slow motion go through the cast for us, that's good. Okay, so you've just pulled through. Let me just go back again. Okay, so we've got a nice and relax. Okay, pull through, and then as you turn in your body, here, get to here, you'll notice the rod, 45 degrees. This is the power stroke. So he's turned his body, and what he's going to do now is he's going to do a punch and pull. Punch and pull, there it is. This arm here, a little bit too over, a little bit too down. Ideally what we want is up there. So we're punching up with this arm. If I can just demonstrate with the right arm, just so people can see. So if I do it into camera, it might be easier for people to see. So what we're looking for here, classic javelin, pull through, punch and pull. So we're punching up with our right arm and pulling with our left arm. So here, I'll do that again. We pull through, and as we pull, we start to turn our body. We pull through, punch and pull, and we end in a nice, strong stance. Rod, 45 degrees, looking up, punching up. So here, look up, pull through, punch and pull. Okay, so right, Ollie. Right, so Ollie's just going to demonstrate the cast. One thing I will just say before he starts this cast again and shows you the movements of it is when we cast, it's slow in, fast out. So we start the cast slowly to load the rod, and then we hit the rod at the end of the cast, right at the end of the cast. We start slowly, we build, and then we snap into the cast right at the end. So Ollie, I just want you to just demonstrate slow in, fast out for me if you can. Good, that's it. So he's got a nice high left arm, obviously being left hand, nice high left arm, that's good. His right arm is pulled down to his side, which is where it should be, and his left arm is high. So he's looking up, and he's following the lead as that's gone out to sea. That was a good done. And if you look at his stance, he's turned his body, he's facing the way that he's casting, so he's transferred his weight, turned his body, put it all into the motion of the cast, which is good. Good, well done, Ollie. Right, go and set Ollie up to have a cast now on the beach. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the lead. He's got about a 6.5, 7 foot drop. I'm going to set the lead at 90 degrees to the rod tip. You'll see what that means when I go over and set him up. I'm going to set him up with the cast, get his arms in the right position. I'm going to move out the way, and then Ollie's going to show, hopefully, how to cast off the ground. Nice long time. Okay, so let's go with that. Right. When you're ready, look up. Nice on it, good cast, well done. Get that in there. So we're going to take a video from behind him, so you'll be able to see as he pulls through and turns his body exactly, pushing the ball motion that we talked about earlier. Right, Ollie. Same again then. 90 degrees to the rod tip, like we said before. Lovely. Helps to roll the rod. Good. Arms up. Excellent. Look up then, Ollie. And when you're good to go, let's go. That's good. Well done. That's really good. Get that in then. Okay, I'm just going to demonstrate the same cast that young Ollie just did very well there, obviously being left-handed. I'm going to do it now from a right-handed perspective, just so people don't get confused if they're trying to copy. So that's the end of our casting video today, so thank you for watching. Hope it's been informative. I hope you've been able to learn some little pointers along the way, and hopefully it will lead to better and longer distance casting for many of you in the future. I also want to say thank you to young Ollie. Thank you, mate. Right. By the hand. Yeah. Thank you for being my guinea pig today and demonstrating the rudiments of casting. So thank you.